Good morning, top fan rivalry listeners. I am Jackson, and I'm here with Bill as always for the weekly review. How we doing, Bill?
I'm doing great. I was about ready to say, I am Bill. You said, I am Jackson. I am Bill.
Well, I threw I mixed it up this week. You know can't give the same intro every week.
No, you cannot. You cannot. You cannot. Lots to talk about. Before we get started with our 1 through 5, let's talk about the corporate sponsors. Jackson, we're a small business. We love our corporate sponsors. We value them. First of all, we're grateful for Bleacher Brothers putting us on their sports radio network. We love them. We appreciate everything that they're doing. Okay, corporate sponsors. If you are in Laguna Beach, California, you need to head over to Ruby's. Open that door up and say, I'm here because of Top Fan. Where's Ned? Right? Ned will take good care of you over at the Laguna Beach Rubies. Secondly, if you are looking for a good clothing apparel brand, Drunken Gentleman does a great job. They get together, they hang out, they got some great clothing apparel. Josh is your guy there. We love Josh. We appreciate Josh, and we look forward to what we can do there for Josh. Finally, did you know, Jackson, that the Inland Empire is run on Duncan? Did
Is
you
it?
know that Duncan in Fontana, in Upland, in Rancho Cucamonga, in the Ontario Airport, and in Colton, actually a second location is opening up in April, are all sponsors to Top Fan Rivalry. So thank
Oh
you
wow.
so much for that group. We appreciate you. We look forward to everything that you have to offer, and we just love and appreciate our sponsors that keep us going.
I knew America ran on Duncan. I learned that after moving to the East Coast. America
There
runs on Duncan. I did not know they ran the Inland Empire. So
you go. America, the Inland Empire runs on Duncan, and we
it
are so
does.
grateful at
So
Top Fan Rivalry. So, okay, Jackson, what do you got for number one?
I figured we'd stay on theme for what we have been doing at the beginning of all these. There are still some free agents. Spring training has started. There are some guys floating around. You know, I pulled up a list today and I just kind of looking through. There's two guys. This is a two for one for my number one that stuck out to me. Jose Quintana remains unsigned. Uh, Quintana for the Mets last year was pretty solid. He threw 170 innings. The whip was a little high at 1.2, but he posted a 3.75 ERA, which is just, another day at the office for him. That's his career ERA. I'm really surprised nobody's gone out and got Quintana. I know he's struggled with health issues recently, but when he's healthy, he's good for, anywhere from 160 to 200 innings. He's a veteran pitcher. There's a lot of teams that just need a veteran arm. He's only, he was 35 last season. He's only going to be like 35, turning 36. I guess he just turned 36 this January. Um, but yeah, that one really surprised me. Quintana, and then another pitcher, David Robertson, who was excellent for Texas last year out of the bullpen. Uh, I mean, he struck out almost 100 batters in 72 innings. And it's weird that, spring training started. Pitchers and catchers have been there for several weeks now, and there's two very good pitchers on the market. Every year we got to have those guys that join the camp late. And your team's like, why do we even sign this guy? He's going to save your season at some point. So keep an eye on those two guys. They might be pivotal for a contender or a team on the up. Two veteran
Yes,
pitchers.
yes, it's interesting that you mentioned free agents because we don't do that a lot. Once kind of spring training starts, we kind of forget about these guys, and some of these guys are role players, right? Some of these guys have significant ability to be role players. Jose Quintana, you mentioned David Robertson. These guys have the ability to be major role players for different teams that just need a little bit of a spark plug.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said and go into something that we often talk about on the show. We definitely talk about on Around the Diamond. So let's talk a little bit about injuries. Yesterday, Thursday afternoon, Gunnar Henderson left the game early with an apparent right lower something or other's discomfort. That is a guy that if Baltimore is going to compete, they need to keep their big three together. Him, Adley Rushman, um, and Jackson Holiday. So I'm not too ecstatic for him that this is happening, but you got to just be careful, right?
Yeah, I mean, spring's a time to, you know, ramp up, but it's also a time, where they're going to be extra cautious because you are ramping up.
Hmm.
So I would be worried more as a lingering injury. As a left-handed hitter, uh, the right side's really bad because if it hurts, it's hard to stay on the ball. He's going to open up a lot. So if that lingers around, that might affect his power, the way he swings the bat. Because Henderson's a very good all field hitter. He's not
Hmm.
too much of a pull hitter. So that is certainly something to watch for. And I think he's the key to the Orioles' success. He's their best hitter.
100%, 100%. And to be honest with you, it's I mean, obviously Anthony Rendon went down. We already know about that. We talked about that. Uh, Sean Manaea went down, and he'll be
Uh,
out
yeah,
until really May.
he's actually my number two. So I'll get back to you on that in a second.
Okay, okay. So we'll talk about that in a second. But you got, I mean, a guy like Henderson is there to play, and it's going to be rough for the Baltimore um, club if they can't turn that around. All right,
Yeah.
Jackson, what you got?
So yeah, Sean Manaea, down with side discomfort. Again, some really bad injury for a left-handed pitcher. An oblique, because an oblique, much like a shoulder, you never know when it's going to heal fully. Or an elbow, it's going to be one of those lingering injuries. And I'm going to pivot off the Sean Manaea injury and kind of go into this. If you're the 2025 New York Mets, do you think you can compete without Sean Manaea in your rotation? 2024 Sean Manaea in your rotation. I took a look after Manaea went down, and let me tell you that the pitching staff's looking a little thin. They have Kodai Senga, who, when healthy, is very good, but then it's David Peterson, Clay Holmes, who's never thrown a pitch as a starter in the MLB, Paul Blackburn, who's a solid back of the rotation guy, and Griffin Canning, who's a guy that is a bounced back candidate, maybe
Hmm.
moving to New York. Um, I think this is Manaea's injury is disastrous for the Mets. I don't think the Mets can afford to have him miss any amount of significant time. They have to hope this oblique injury kind of goes away. Otherwise, look, I don't think they could do it 2 years in a row. Last year they started off real slow, and then they kind of pulled up and got hot and rode it into the playoffs. It's really hard to do that more than 1 year in a row. And if the Mets struggle out of the gate because of their pitching, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised
Yeah,
because a lot of people think the Mets are one of the top dogs at the top of the NL East with the Phillies and the Braves. And call me a Braves hunter. I don't think so. Nope.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
It
I
just
don't.
doesn't. It just doesn't look like it. As far as the roster's constructed right now, sure, the top of the lineup looks good, but there's certainly some questions with the back half of their lineup, their bench, and their rotation, and how much can the bullpen really take on as a burden early in the year if you want to make a deep playoff run.
100%, 100%, 100%. And again, we've mentioned this time and time and time and time and time again of Jackson, and so we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that again, right? We've mentioned this before. Um, the the New York Metropolitans do not play in a division that you can get away with stuff. You you are going to have to compete, and you're going to have to compete very, very hard and very, very fast, right? So
Yeah,
we'll see without Shamanio how that plays itself out. Kind of a big deal. Kind of a
it's a
big
really
deal.
big deal.
Um, okay, so my number two, I'm actually staying in Baltimore, and this is a discussion that you and I have not had, and we need to have this discussion because it leads to a number of different things with a number of different clubs. So word on the street is Jackson Halliday and Gunnar Henderson are working with JJ Harding um, as he's kind of coaching them through play middle infield, turning the double play, that type of a thing. I love with the capital L and every other letter in between. I love when alumni comes back and takes young kids and works with them. Uh, Not just mentoring them on the field. Hey, start to read each other, start to see each other better. Kind of get yourself what Carlos Correa and what Carlos Correa and blah, 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 Jose Altuve had. But I love this. So Jackson, before I go any further, what are your thoughts about alumni coming back and helping out?
I think it's great. The Braves alumni weekend is my favorite weekend to watch baseball. Um,
Oh,
just because the guys they have in the booth, it's usually John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and Jeff Francoeur. So it's a real romp in the booth, but you can tell that all four of those guys are involved in mentorship in some part in the organization. Um, a lot of hitters, as a Braves fan, have credited Chipper Jones to helping them to learn how to be a better hitter. Austin Riley, most notable. Um, so I love it. I think, having guys who've been there before and done it before and who are beloved by the fans, it's a big win for everyone because, those guys come back. They love to see the fans who remember, everyone loves their favorite player. And, as an adult, it's great to see that, your favorite players there helping the next generation really just kind of get their work in and learn how to play baseball at a professional level because it's not easy. It's a lot more than just, showing up and using your natural God-given talent to hit a ball over the fence. It's a lot of hard work. And I think mentorship is probably, the most underrated aspect of running a good organization.
so you have, yes, and I was having conversations offline, and I'm sure this is going to come up on the American League with Ashley. Ashley's actually out of town, so it's going to be Kenna, but I'm positive we're going to end up having a conversation about this on Monday. But what I like is I like that mentorship that says, okay, dude, you got to get adjusted to being a professional athlete. You got to get adjusted to fans booing you. You got to get adjusted to the travel. It's not, I mean, Jackson, you and I both know the game, by the time that we see these guys at 7 o'clock at night, they've already been to the field for 7 hours, right? And then they've got another 3 hours of game. So it's a 10-hour ordeal at the stadium. And sometimes you have situations where if you're Baltimore, um, obviously your division is relatively close to you. The flights aren't very long, but you could play a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then play Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and you're at the field at 8 o'clock getting your reps in and everything like that. And the next, and then after the game's over, you shower up and you're flying to Anaheim because you're going to play the Angels, you're going to play the Dodgers, and you're going to play the Padres, and then you're going to fly home. So it's a lot of that. I love alumni coming back in and mentoring. So I to me, I think it's just a fantastic thing.
Yeah, and I think a thought I just had is, they help these guys learn how to, a lot of these guys have families, and it's hard to manage, a personal life with a professional athlete's life, and it's really nice knowing it's like, hey, I went through this, and this is how I handled it to stay, focused on the field, and you know, who wouldn't love that at their job? You start a new job, and there's somebody who's been there and done it before, who's willing to, kind of walk you through pretty much any situation you have and just be
Yep.
like, hey, this is what I experienced. This is what this guy experienced. I can get you in touch with this guy. And it's just great. Mentorship. It's it's a wonderful part of baseball.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So I like that. Most people aren't talking about that. That's kind of inside baseball. That's kind of stuff that you and I look for, right? So if you're listening
Yeah.
to the show and you're going, "Where are these guys talking about this?" Yeah, you know what? It has to do with what's going to happen in the evening at 7 o'clock on May 12th or whatever, right? It's good stuff. So, Jackson, what do you got for number three?
I got, a pretty big one. The MLB breaking their ties to ESPN
Mm,
for this upcoming season. There will be no Sunday night baseball. But I wanted to highlight how this might be really good for baseball. As someone
okay.
who, you know, used to stay up every night to watch the Baseball Tonight, because it was the best show on ESPN. Uh, to now it's unrecognizable, the coverage of baseball on, what's supposed to be the worldwide leader in sports. I think Major League Baseball is taking a bit of a gamble here, hopping off the mainstream platform in hopes of broadening their coverage to people who want to watch baseball. At the end of the day, that's not people who watch ESPN don't understand the game of baseball. Uh,
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of baseball and basketball fans. They hardly ever cover baseball. All the talking points are, the NFL or the NBA. But I think MLB can really use this to kind of pivot and promote their programs. MLB Tonight, stuff like that, and be able to kind of break this media blackout market that's been formed and get more games out to people who want to watch them. I think it will help the game grow.
So at the end of the day, Jackson, you and I both know, straight up and straight out, you and I both know that this is all economics. Something behind the scenes, somebody to this person, to that person, this person's cousins, grandmothers, brothers, boyfriends, sister, or whatever, right? So it's all economics. But I, I'm a big fan of deregulation to a certain extent, right? Right. I want to be very, very careful with deregulation because isn't that what social media does? Social media has deregulated all of the you never used to have as much commentary that you have now. So social media deregulates a lot of things. I love deregulation to a certain extent. Let's just make sure that we kind of keep it happy, happy, right?
Yeah.
So no, this is a huge one. You nailed that one, Jackson. Um, Obviously with Bally's, that's a huge thing for a lot of teams. San Diego's worried about making payroll because they don't have the revenue stream from Bally's. The Angels are having the same issues. You have teams that it's good that they've been competing, but they're not competing at a level that they should be competing at. And yeah, it gets a little kind of crazy. So I like it. I very much appreciate everything that that does. But yeah, man, good call, Jackson. I didn't expect you to pull that one out.
Yeah. It was something that really stuck with me all week. And I think this can only be good for, the broadcasting of baseball. If MLB can really pivot this, that look, I know ESPN had a ludicrous contract, a very lucrative contract with MLB. The MLB can pivot this into more money because they can put more games on Sunday night at the end of
They
the
have
day.
their own network,
They
and
have their
that's
own network.
yeah, that is the so it kind of reminds me a little bit when you're talking business. I'm not going to mention names of companies here, but Netflix and Blockbuster Video. Um, the word on the street was that Netflix, when they first created these mail out DVDs, right, 100 years ago, I mean, back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, they approached Blockbuster and said, "Hey, we're working on streaming systems. When the technology is there, we've approached the studios, yada yada yada." Well, Blockbuster said, "Go pound sand. You're not charging late fees. That's where we make most of our money." Blockbuster made over 40% on their late fees, right? And so they told them to go pound sand. Well, then Netflix starts mailing out DVDs with no late fees, and then Blockbuster has to compete with them. Which company's still in business?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
Netflix.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so you just got to be careful. And ESPN pulled the dice here, and it looks like the MLB won the discussion. But again, what do I know, right?
Yeah.
What do I know? What do I know? All right. Before we go much further, we need to take a quick pause, tell you about one thing that Top Fans very happy to announce, and then also um, talk about our corporate sponsors again. So first and foremost, if you haven't been paying attention, Fan Rivalry has gotten into the box breaking world, the collectibles world. It's absolutely fantastic. Today, Top Fan Rivalry will be breaking the Topps 2025 hobby box. It is a fantastic box. So excited for its break. We do this with Heads Up Sports Cards in Boston. Mike over at Heads Up Sports Cards. We love Mike. We appreciate everything that Mike does. for us with that. We also did a couple of hanger boxes. If you are a card collector, Top Down Rivalry is the place to be. It's a new department, it's a new avenue for us. And so I am very, very, very excited to announce that we are doing box breaks. And Jackson, they're cheap. You can go on, I think Cleveland's still there, Colorado's still there, Arizona's still there. There's some great rookies. There's a great rookie card in the Nationals organization. You can pick up some of these things for $5, right? $5. Some teams are a little bit more, it ranges between 5 and 20 bucks. And if you don't get your team, don't stress. We'll do another one. It's okay. But everybody's guaranteed to get a card or two. Even if we rip the box open and there's no cards there, guaranteed to get a card. So Jackson, what do you think about that? Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good deal. If you, hey, if you like pulling cards, but you don't want to assume all the financial risk because
Yep,
this is for you.
100%.
Card collecting, opening packs can be very, very expensive. So I
100%.
think it's a nice cheap alternative to satisfy
Yeah.
your itch per se.
Scratch that itch, exactly. And then
Crash
again,
that.
we also want to make mention of Laguna Beach is Ruby's there, Ned, and his corporate sponsorship. Drunken Gentleman over there with Josh. Also want to make remember the Inland Empire runs on Duncan, right? Go check out
Yes,
locations
it
in
does.
Upland, Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, the airport in Ontario, Colton, all those places. And Jackson, we should even mention some of our past corporate sponsors, which is the pizza store by OC Local, and also Darren and Darren's crew over at Gravity Reproduction. So that being said, guys and gals, we appreciate that. Jackson, why don't I kick us off to number three? How's that?
All right, sounds good to me.
You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Tariq Skubal has added a sweet part of a changeup to his mantra. Now, for those of you that understand what happens in spring training, these guys work on different things. Don't at me. Tyler Glasnow went out there and he had a terrible outing the other day. Everybody, oh, he's got a bad eye. It's because he was working on different pitches. Guys that know they're breaking camp, this is time for them to face live batters with crowds, with noises, with umpires, with everything. And yeah, so Tariq has worked on that. Jackson, I'm not willing to guarantee it, but I'm almost willing to say, though, too bad, so sad. He was announced as a starting day pitcher, which means he's going to start 0 and 1. Jackson, tell me I'm wrong about that. Why? Who did the Detroit, who did the Motown boys start their season off with?
Some team from LA. I think they play up in the hills of. They're
Yeah,
playing like Chavez Ravine or something like that. I
Chavez
don't know.
Ravine, the 2024 through 2027 world champion Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah,
That's right.
just the 2024 World Champion Dodger.
What do you
I'll
think
give him
about
that.
this changeup idea for Tariq Skubal?
As a primary fastball slider kind of pitcher, I think it's devastating. I think it's going to make him if he can, throw it well. Fastball changeup slider is probably the best combo of three pitch combo you can have, especially if it's a circle change that moves, the opposite direction of your slider. Um, because now he can really attack those right-handed hitters, with something that they will chase, something that'll break down and into right-handed hitters. It opens up the inside, the inside corner for him a lot more. Um, because he can throw something that's not his fastball that's moving in. So I think Skubal is looking to build on a very good year last year. I think the Tigers are hoping he does. But it's very good that he learned this changeup. You know what? I'm going to build on your last point. He learned it from a mentor. He learned it from veteran pitcher Robbie Ray, is what I heard. So, you know, mentoring isn't just for the former players. A lot of teams bring in these veterans. If you ever wonder why your team brings in a veteran guy, especially a pitcher, sometimes it's just for that, the knowledge and the ability to help your younger arms pitch better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And honestly, Jackson, a guy like this is going to be vital for the Motown group because that Motown group and dot 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 and the Kansas City Royals are going to be battling it out to see how things play themselves out. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I just my gosh, let's get it on, right? And I'm excited about how this thing plays itself out.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly something very exciting, and hearing that Scooble's being able to pitch it so well after such a short time after learning it is a very good sign, because that means he's confident and comfortable with it if he can throw it well. So those are the types of pitches that usually stick around in a pitcher's arsenal.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Jackson, what you got for number four?
I'll stay with pitchers. How about Sandy Alcantara returning for the Miami Marlins? He threw 99 miles an hour in his first spring training game, Bill. He's coming back off Tommy John surgery. Uh, he's looking healthy, and the guy, when healthy, is a horse. I think the Marlins aren't going to be very good this year or the next year, unfortunately. But this opens up a really interesting. Uh, I know I'm jumping halfway through the season here. Trade deadline hypothetical. Do the Marlins potentially have the biggest trade chip of the trade deadline? If he's back to being, even three-quarters of what he was before he hurt his elbow, this is a very, very. I think he has another year or two of control after this year.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting, starting pitching piece. We talked about the Mets needing a frontline guy. This could be a guy that could start a bidding war. Baltimore needs a frontline guy. There's a tons of teams who could use, Sandy Alcantara's, arsenal of. He gets weak contact, he throws hard, he strikes batters out, and he just throws a ton of innings. But it's a good sign, He just had his second Tommy John, so
I like him. He throws hard. He plays the game right. He laughs. He's a little bit like a Felix Hernandez that just goes out there and kind of makes you laugh when he's out there. So I this will be good for baseball to have him back. Um,
yeah, he's one of those pitchers that it's your team's playing. Even if your team's not playing and he's pitching, you should just turn that game on,
yeah,
because he's electric. He's one of those guys you watch and you're just like, oh man, I will never be this good at baseball.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, Jackson, you bring up a good point, and I feel as though I was gonna move my number. I'm gonna move my number five over to number four because you're mentioning individual players, and so my number five is how about Michael Trout yard? How about Alex Bregman going yard on his first at bat as a Red Sox? Um, I mentioned this earlier on the in the leagues. It is a very, very, very good thing when certain players are really good. A healthy Mike Trout is good for the league. Just as much as we hate this, it's good when the Red Sox and Yankees are good. It's good when the Dodgers and Giants are good in the same season. It's good when the Cardinals and Cubs are good. It's good when the Braves and Mets are good. Those rivalries incite something down. I don't know. It's just it it's good. And so to see Mike Trout get back to where he needs to be, it in my opinion is an excellent thing.
Yeah, I know we've been saying it for like 3 or 4 years here, but like a healthy Mike Trout might hit 50 home run. He hit 30 the other year in less than 100 games, and that was a year that he ended not healthy. But I think I agree with you. I think it's Mike Trout's year to show everybody why uh, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
200%. 200%. 200%. Yeah, no, I absolutely love I love the fact that he is good. I don't want to see him get injured again. I don't I want to see him get a full season in.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
moving the right field, so we might get it. So
Yeah, which is actually a really good thing for him. And I think that eventually towards the end of his career, we might even see him move to first base. And I mean that's a position where later on in his career he can do that. Here's something interesting though, Jackson, about Mike Trout is when he signed this massive deal that he has now, right? We all looked at that massive deal and we said, "Oh, nobody will ever take that deal. Nobody, you can never move him. You can never trade him." Right? What did Alex sign for? 3 years with the Braves?
you mean the Red Sox?
I mean the Red Sox, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, 3 years, 120. I mean, you're willing to pay Bregman 40 million, you might as well take the Mike Trout contract.
Yeah, and so when you're looking at Mike Trout's contract, he's got 6 more seasons, that's including this season, at $37.1 million dollars. So, you know,
If he plays 140 games, he's worth it.
mhm. And what's interesting about Mike Trout, and I don't think that people understand this, he's got 378 home runs. If he can stay on the field, and let's just for the next 6 years say he averages 20 home runs,
Uh,
right?
easy.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying averaging 20 home
Yeah,
runs, right? Some years he might, his last 2 seasons, he might average 10, but these next couple of seasons, he might hit 30. Who knows? But let's just say that he averages 20 home runs. If he averages 20 home runs, Jackson, over the next 6 seasons, 120 home runs, that puts him darn near the 500 club. That's
yeah.
that's an impressive number, and he's got 1,648 hits. So I'm very happy with that. And his age 38 season is the year that he becomes a free agent. If he's anywhere near 3,000 hits at that point, he might try to stretch it out. He might try to stretch it out for a year or two. The Angels do not have a full-time DH like the Dodgers do. So Mike can move into that role too.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting. This Angels team we talked about all off season is a very interesting team. And it
Yeah,
all really just hinges on if Mike Trout is healthy and Mike Trout. Could they be a wild card team? Maybe.
yeah. I,
They
you know,
might.
I actually think the Angels, I really do think the Angels have a better team than people really let on. When you look at their 40-man depth chart, they're still going to be able to score runs, but their pitching is much, much better this season. I don't know that the Astros got any better. Seattle didn't do anything, zero, right? The A's, they picked up a closer, okay. And so I don't, and the Rangers, we'll see what the Rangers do. It would not
The,
surprise me if the Angels are undervalued this year and they sneak in and win this division with 87 games or 88 games.
yeah. I think the big key, now we're still in spring training, but divisional games are always the key every season. And since they moved to this balanced schedule that we've voiced our displeasure with, yeah, those 13 games you play against every team, you got to make every single one of them count. And um, having guys healthy like Mike Trout certainly bolster your chances to win those divisional games. And it's just, can Trout stay on the field enough?
That's the question. That's the ultimate
But
question is
but
can he stay on the field enough?
you, you can pose that question to a lot of teams. You mentioned the Rangers. Can the Rangers stars stay on the field long enough for the
Yeah,
Rangers to win enough ball games? It
yeah.
remains after winning the World Series, it remains to be seen. So they had a really bad injury year last year, and it it might not get any better.
The issue that the Angels have is if they win 20 more games than they did last season, that's still only 83 games. In order for them to hit that 88 marker, they need to have 25 more wins this season than they did last season.
Yeah,
But if you look at their depth chart, it's a possibility.
they have a solid lineup.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Okay, Jackson, what you got for number five? Because my number five is going to shock you. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna try to get a little debate in you for number five. Go ahead with your number five.
Uh, yeah, I got one that's if you're a really big baseball fan, you've heard this. If you haven't been a baseball fan long or you don't follow other teams very closely, but the Yankees removing their facial hair policy, I think is a really big deal. Um, I think this is a shift in the culture. I think the Yankees post losing the World Series feel like something needs to change. That they refuse to fire Brian Cashman, so instead they're gonna start loosening and changing the culture up, which I think is really interesting. That the Yankees have had this culture of being the clean cut, bad guys that wear the same two uniforms all season, no alternates. They're getting a City Connect this year. They're allowing facial hair this year. They're really kind of just trying to shake things up because they got worked in the World Series. The only game they were in is the one they won in a blowout.
Hmm.
Um, and in the game that with the walk-off grand slam by Freddie Freeman. But I think the Yankees are really trying to shake it up, and I think they're a team to watch. Do I personally think the Yankees are going to get back to the World Series this year? I do not. Um, I'll tell you why in the honorable mentions, but I do not. But I think the changing of the culture is we're seeing a shift that it's unprecedented for a team of this stature.
Yeah, yeah. You're probably right with the Yankees. I love some of the shifts. The facial hair thing, I don't know. I mean, I love I love the fact that the Yankees have had such a strong, hard stance on different things, and so I like that. But anyways, um,
I think it's stopped them from getting talent in certain cases, and I think it's really guys don't want to play for the Yankees because they feel like they can't be themselves.
well, it didn't stop him from getting Johnny D.
Oh yeah, but don't look at Johnny Damon's social media. He's very upset about.
I'm sure he is. Like, say what? You're gonna let what happen?
Yeah, he's
Say
like, hey,
what?
hey, 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 hey.
Uh, okay, my number five is going to spark a debate, and my honorable mention will. If you steal my honorable mention, so help me, Jackson. I'm gonna, I'm going to find some people out in your area, and we're gonna TP your house or something. If you steal my honorable mention, but my number five is the Chicago White Sox have started off 0 5. Records really, really, really don't matter, in my opinion, in spring training, unless you lost 121 games last season. If you lost 121 games last season, you need to jump into action immediately. I don't care. I don't care as of yesterday, as of Thursday, the Dodgers, I think were 2-5. The Dodgers are not going to be an under 500 team. The Cubs are 6-0. The Cubs are not going to win 162 games this season. Uh, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving vehicles here, but I've talked to a couple of White Sox fans and they feel deflated already, and the season hasn't even started yet. And so, Jackson, what are your thoughts about a team that loses 121 games and then goes into spring training and starts out 0-5?
I think you ignore it. I think the White Sox did everything they needed to do this offseason. I think short of trading Luis Robert Jr. They traded Garrett Crochet for a haul. They
Mhm.
have legit catching prospects and Kyle Teal, Edgar Cuero. They have legit prospects. That the teams losing in spring training should be the least of your worries. You're going to be bad this year, White Sox fans. I'm sorry, but the front office saw that and just blew it up. They decided it was over, and I think going forward, you just got to look for improvement. Like you said, don't don't lose 130 games this year, and I think that's a win. I think if you win 50 games this season, it's a moral win. You were just bad. You weren't historically bad. You were just bad, and from there you can only go up.
Yeah. I don't know. If I'm the White Sox, I'm trying not to lose 100 games this season.
I think they'll try. I don't think they're good enough not to, but I would be elated if they prove me wrong.
There you go. There you go. See, and I take a different approach in this than you do, Jackson. Personally, if it were my team, if it were the Dodgers, and they had lost 121 games last season, I would feel much like my friends who have messaged me and said, "Okay, so now spring training started, and it's all the same stuff. We're gonna lose another 120 games this season." Um, you're looking for that win, and like you say, it's it. I, the records don't matter. You're getting guys in that are going to face major league hitters probably in a season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons. But if you're the White Sox, you have to play kind of to win in spring training to get your base fired up about the season. If you end up this season at this spring training at 3-18, it doesn't say a lot for enthusiasm.
Yeah, you got to look at it from a front office standpoint, though. If you know
Mhm.
that the fan base is turned on the owner,
Mhm.
as the front office, all you could do is what's going to make your team win the soonest. Tell me wrong.
Yeah.
Their,
Well,
their job's to turn their
I,
job's to turn it around. So if The front office and the players and staff just kind of got to block it out and go out and just do their thing. You know,
Yep. Yep.
again, I don't want the players to be the anguish that they were last year
No,
because
you don't.
that White Sox team looked miserable, especially
100%.
late in the season. It looked like those guys didn't even want to be anywhere near a baseball field, let alone somebody mention the word baseball in their presence. So it I think they've made all the right moves. They have a good stock of young guys. I think the White Sox team's going to be fun in the second half because they're going to trade off more of their major league ready talent, what little talent they have left, and it's just going to be a bunch of young guys. You know,
True. That's it's
see what sticks.
Ricky Vaughn, Willie Mays Hayes, Pedro Serrano, right? That's that's
Look, I've seen the movie. They got Ricky Vaughn coming out of the bullpen. It's all over.
all I want
I
to
don't
know
know.
is
I,
if the ownership is trying to move the team to Miami. That's all I need to know.
I don't know. I think there's already one team trying to get out of my.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So that's my number five. Jackson, before you go to the honorable mentions, a couple things that you want to know. We talked about box breaking. Top Fan Rivalry has partnered up with Pop Art Sports Cards. These are guys that are this run by Joe. Joe does a great job. If you are looking for your own personalized baseball card and or personalized card, I just got some made up for a friend of mine who's retiring from his company. He loves it. I know that there's some people that are going to use them as their wedding announcements. Go to topfanrivalry.com, click on the team store, get your own personal baseball card. You get 30 of them for $25. Or I'm sorry, you get 25 of them for $30. But Jackson, what happens if they use the code? What's the code again?
Use code Jackson.
Oh,
Get ten
if
percent off. Pay $27. Don't pay
pay
$30. Pay
27 bucks
27.
for 25 cards. You're not personalized cards. You're not going to beat that, ladies and gentlemen. So
Oh,
must mention, and again, must mention our good friends over at Ruby's in Laguna Beach, our good friends over at Dunkin' Donuts in the Inland Empire. Again, Ontario Airport, Upland, Fontana, two in Colton. Actually, the second one's opening in April, and Rancho Cucamonga. Appreciate you guys, drunken gentlemen. We appreciate you as well. Jackson, as we're wrapping up the show, talk to me about your honorable mentions. And so help me if you steal mine. I'm here right now. So help me.
you talked about home run hitters.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about another injury, one that could be potentially devastating. And this is the reason why I don't think the Yankees are going to get back to the World Series this year.
Oh, I know
John
where this is going.
Carlos, John Carlos Stanton is out with they're calling it tennis elbow in both elbows. But this is a really big blow for a Yankees team who, when Stanton was healthy last year, their lineup was good. Um, Stanton's another guy that, if you look at his home run numbers, he's over 400. He's coming up. He has an outside shot at 500 home runs. And if he gets to 500 home runs, it's going to drive pretty much every baseball stats guy insane because he doesn't look like a Hall of Famer if you don't look at his home runs. But if he hits that 500 number, is John Carlos Stanton a Hall of Fame player? But that's my honorable mention. Stanton, get your elbows, man. Maybe lower the weight on the curls. Get better, buddy, because I love watching you just absolutely mash a baseball. He hits the hardest baseballs I've ever seen in my life. So you want to talk about guys that are fun to watch?
100%. 100%. I'm actually looking for something for my honorable mention, but I love John Carlos Stanton. And it's good. Again, he's one of those guys that you have to um, you have to give props to, and you want him to be successful. You want him to be on the field, and the Yankees need him on the field, right? Okay, Jackson, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman hits a grand salami in the World Series in Game One. Do you remember where you were at when it happened?
Where we were at,
Where you were at personally? You personally?
I was on my couch watching the baseball game.
Okay. I was actually at a local restaurant down the street. Most people that are baseball fans in the world remember that play. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So, that being said, the pitcher who gave up that home run decided to run his little trapper, recently. Did you hear
Hmm.
about this?
I heard he said something. I didn't see what he said.
Why don't I'm gonna let you pull it up while I give some of the background here. So Nestor Cortez claims
Oh
that
wait, yes, he said the Yankees were the better team. That's what he said, right?
yes, he said the Yankees were the better team, that the Yankees won game two, and all but for the Grand Slam, the Yankees should have won game one. They won game two. The Dodgers would have won three and four. They should have won game five, and then they would have won it in LA in game six. Okay. Nasty Nestor, we appreciate you for your comments. We get the fact that baseball players have a little bit of a ego, a little bit maybe. We appreciate everything that you're saying here. You weren't the better team. You weren't the better team. And if I'm the guy that gave up that home run, I'm definitely not the guy running my mouth. I got more on this, but Jackson, I'm going to stop it right here and ask you what your thoughts are here.
Uh, yeah. I mean, you can't make comments like that when the only other game, none of the other games were close in either direction. Uh, I never felt like the Yankees were in any of the other games in a significant amount. I mean, aside from the early innings, um, I thought going to Nestor Cortez to face Freddie Freeman was a terrible idea. And, of course, throwing Freddie Freeman anything but sliders down in the way and changeups down. Uh, Horrible idea. But yeah, this isn't Pirates Yankees 1960 World Series where you look at the run differential and you're like, oh mama, the Yankees might have been the better team. You know, this is you got boat raced in 3 games. You
Yep.
won a blowout, and then you gave a walk off grand slam kind of thing. Uh, I think he might have a good season with Milwaukee, but I think you're right. He should just keep his head down and pitch, and look to have success with Milwaukee to get a nice free agent contract in a year or two.
Keep, keep your head down and get yourself back in a big market squad. Um, my my thing is the Yankees, both the Yankees and the Dodgers on paper were some of the best teams in baseball last season. Uh, I don't know though that I give up that home run if I'm the one that's running my mouth. That like you said, the Yankees and Dodgers were close in game one. Dodgers win the game. Game three, game four. I mean, listen, the only way that this changes, Garrett Cole covers first base. Okay. Hypothetically speaking, Garrett Cole covers first base. Right. You're all good there. Garrett Cole covers first base. And let's say you get out of that inning, you end up winning the game. Now you're down 3-2. You got to win one game in LA. If you can stink out game six, then it's game seven, and that's where everything, all the pressure's on the Dodgers. But that being said, no, no. Rom
Yeah,
got to make these. Sorry, Rom got to make these comments.
to me, it kind of feels like Philadelphia fans don't come after me. It feels like the Philadelphia sports talk radio after the Phillies lost the World Series to the Astros. We were the better team, but we got no hit in one game. But if you take that game out, it was really close. But we got no hit one. It you don't get mulligans in baseball. You don't get to throw out your worst game of the season. You don't get to throw out a bad game in a playoff. What happens happens, and you know you got to the only thing you do is move forward.
The only thing you can do.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the only thing you can do. I was a little surprised, Jackson. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a little surprised by his comments. Again, I understand what he's trying to do. I understand what his approach is on this. I don't like it. I really don't like it. But again, what do I know? I'm not the one down there. So, so yeah. Um, okay, Jackson, do you have any other honorable mentions?
uh, just an interesting article I read this week, done by statistician Ryan Spader, who's the author of a book of incredible baseball stats, the coolest, strangest stats and facts in baseball history. Just quoting it, he says your best hitter should be the leadoff hitter, uh, because they face the most highest leverage situations. And I just thought that was interesting. I pose a question to you: should Shohei Ohtani always be hitting leads? Would you, knowing that because they say late you're guaranteed a high leverage at bat late in the game when you're at the top of the order and you're the first guy up. At the bottom of the order gets on, it's an automatic high leverage opportunity. What's your school of thought on that?
Uh, there's there's two things here, right? You're asking should Shohei be the leadoff batter, and do I agree with the statement? I do not agree with the statement. Your best batters aren't always your quickest batters. You definitely want your leadoff batter to be a guy that can get on. Um, Again, this is a la 1980s, right? Go look at the Oakland A's back in the 80s. What happened with the Oakland A's in the 1980s? Ricky Henderson would walk or get on base, steal second, potentially steal third, and
But
then
I pose this question to you: was Ricky Henderson the A's best hitter? Because he was also a big RBI guy.
yeah. Well, it's because guys were getting on in the back side of that area. But no, no,
Yeah,
Ricky Henderson was not. You had guys like Canseco McGuire. You had guys like Dave Parker. Ricky Henderson was not the best hitter on that team. He was one of the best hitters on that team. You had Glenn Hubbard on that team for a while. That was a contact hitter. Terry Steinbach, again, contact hitter. Um, I don't know that I agree with that. Now, do I want Shohei to be the leadoff guy? I may be the only guy in LA that would rather have him batting number two and Mookie batting number one. For some reason, I loved Mookie leading off. I don't ask me to explain it. Don't ask me to tell you why. I love Mookie hitting first.
yeah. It's a really interesting study. I'll have to send it over to you after, but it just shows that the most high leverage at bats are the leadoff hitter. Surprisingly enough, the guy that bats first.
Agreed. Agreed. They get the most out of it. I mean, if you go and look most baseball games, right? And when I say most, I'm gonna say even up to maybe 75% of games. If you look, the number one and number two batter will have either four or five at bats every game. Whereas the number three batter may only have four at bats, not five, so on and so forth. So I understand the genesis of it. Do I agree that that needs to be your best hitter? No, no. So in a hypothetical world, right? Take the Dodgers for example. Let's say that Teo Hernandez is the hottest hitter in baseball the first month. Should he be the leadoff hitter?
It's an interesting question. I've
He
just never
can't
really thought
run.
of it that way.
He,
He,
he he's not
the
quick
school,
like
the
Mookie.
school, the school of thought is though your two, three, four, your next best hitter, so they're going to drive him in regardless. He doesn't need to steal second base. They can hit a home run or hit a double, and he'll just score.
Okay, but see, there's the argument, right? Now we're trying to go 5 run home run at every at bat, right? Versus playing little ball. So for fun, for fun, you got a runner on second base. You want to move him over, but you want to put some pressure on the defense. The runner on second base is your number nine batter, right? You got nobody out. Your number one batter comes up, and he tries to push a bunt or pull a bunt down the third baseline. Okay, move your third baseman in. That runner goes to third. Now, there's a chance that if he bunts well enough, that you get the guy on first. Anyways, now you got first and third, nobody out. But it may just be a straight sacrifice. You got Teo Hernandez, he ain't gonna beat that out. You got Shohei, you got Mookie, you got Elliot De La Cruz, who takes 6 steps every 90 feet. There's a good chance that you're gonna beat that out. So I don't know. I like the study, but I don't know that I agree.
Yeah, it's an interesting,
Yeah.
for us, for the baseball nerds out there, it's a real interesting debate. I'm sure a lot of you are just like, it doesn't matter, just hit him second or third.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
100%. For the
you might be
baseball
close.
geeks.
You might be close to being right. We're just like really particular with how that number lists.
Yeah, 2000%. 2000%. All right, everybody. Welcome to Friday. Thank you so much for Bleacher Brothers putting this on their Radio Sports Network. It's also in our team store. I'm sorry, in our locker room. It is also on YouTube. Make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Locker room, that's a different story. But if you want locker room access, which is to give you all things access to what we do and all things, all invites, you get discount codes, things like that. Um, the That being said, you ought to use a discount code. I'm trying to think of one good one. What would get them, save them 10%? Jackson, could you give me a discount code?
Code Jackson doesn't just work on your pop-up baseball cards, ladies and gentlemen. It works on your membership as well. Get that 10% off your membership as well. Just put in code Jackson. It will get you 10% off everything on the website. I have been told, and if that's not true, it should be.
Everything on the website. It will get you everything on the website. Jackson, let's do it again next week. Let's talk our weekly review next week. It's been a lot of fun this week, and I look forward to doing it again with you.
Yeah. See you next week.
Have a good one.